민수기 19장. Numbers chapter 19. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "This is a requirement of the law that the Lord has commanded. Tell the Israelites to bring you a red heifer without defect or blemish, and that has never been under a yoke. Give it to the Eleazar, the priest. It is to be taken outside the camp and slaughtered in his presence. Then the Eleazar, the priest, is to take some of its blood of his finger and sprinkles it 7 times toward the front of the tent of meeting. While he watches, the heifer is to be burned, its hide, flesh, blood, and offals. The priest is to take some cedar wood, hyssop, and scarlet wool and throw them on the burning. Heifer. After that, the priest must wash his clothes and bathe himself with the waters. He may then come into the camp, but he will be ceremonially unclean till evening. The man who burns it must also wash his clothes and bearing and bathe with the waters, and he too will be unclean till evening. A man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifers and put them in the ceremonially clean place outside the camp. They shall be kept by the Israelite community for use in the water of cleanness. It is purifications them from sin. The man who gathers up the ashes of the heifers must also wash his clothes, and he will be unclean till evening. This will be a last ordinance both for the Israelite and for the aliens living among them. Whoever touches the dead bodies of the animals who will unclean for 7 days, he must purify himself with the waters on the 3rd day and the 7th day. Then he will clean the 3rd day. But if he does not purify himself on the 3rd day and the 7th day, he will not be cleansed. So whoever touch the dead's body and anyone and fails to purify himself, the devils The man who has gathered up and the ashes of the heifers must have washed clothes and be to be unclean till evening. This will be a lasting ordinance both for the Israelite and the kept, and for the aliens living among them. Whoever touches the dead bodies of those anyone who is unclean 7 days, or he might purify himself with the waters on the 3rd day and up on the 8th day. And then he will unclean. But if he does not purify himself on the 3rd day and 7th day, he will not be clean. Whosoever touches the dead body or anyone who fails to put death over anyone's and fails to purify himself, defiles the Lord's tabernacle. That the persons must be cut off from the Israel, because the water of cleansing has not been sprinkled on him. He is unclean, and the uncleanness remains on him. This is the law that applies when a person dies in a tent. Anyone who enters the tent and anyone who is in it will be unclean for 7 days, and every open containers without a lid fastened on it will be unclean. Anyone out in the opens who touches someone who has been killed with a sword, or someone who has died a natural death, anyone out in the opens who touches anyone who has been killed with the sword, or someone is called natural death, or anyone who touches a human bones or a grave will be unclean for 7 days. For the unclean persons put some ashes from the burnt purification offering into the jar. For the unclean person, put some ashes from the burnt purifications offering into jars, or pour fresh waters over them. Then a man who is ceremonially clean is to take some hyssop, dip it in the waters and the sprinklers. The tent and all the furnishings and the people who were there. He must also sprinkle anyone who has touched a human bone, or gave over someone who has been killed, or someone who has died a natural death. The man who is clean is to sprinkle the unclean persons on the 3rd and 7th days. And on the 7th days he is to purify him. The persons brings cleansed must wash the due clothes and bathe with the waters and everything. Evening he will be clean. But if a person who is unclean does not purify himself, he must be cut him the community. Lord, the water cleansing has not been sprinkled on him, and he is unclean. This is a lasting ordinance for them. The man who sprinkled the waters of distinction must be also wash his clothes, and anyone who touches the waters of cleansing will unclean till evening. Anyone The man who sprinkles the waters of cleansing must also wash his clothes, and anyone who touches the water of cleansing will be unclean until the evening. Anything that all unclean person touches becomes unclean, and anyone who touches it welcome unclean till next.